Okay, let's make a start. We'll start with this little self massage exercise, which is a great little exercise for chilly mornings and a good way to just get yourself started very gently without having to sort of bother too much about particulars. So, just starting, rubbing your hands together, warm them up a little bit, and then with the pads of your fingers, just lightly tapping over your face, cheeks, lips, forehead, let your jaw loosen a little bit. And then maybe with the palms of your hands over the top of your head and down to your neck. Then onto one shoulder. So the muscles vibrating underneath your hand as you strike. Down the inside of your arm, up the outside. And then the other shoulder and your arm. Putting that onto your back, the lower part of your back. Very light as you go over. Working out towards your hips and around your hips. My hands are twisted here, but you could leave the palms of your hands open. Going down the outside of your legs, not the inside. And then light again on your belly. And the upper part of the chest. You could do that in any order, by the way. You don't have to follow a particular order. It's one of the advantages of it. So just really livening yourself up a little bit, bringing your attention into your body, going through all the various things that really are fundamental to Tai Chi. Now, standing with your feet hip width apart and with a focus of attention in the middle of your body, just begin to turn gently. Regardless of the class and regardless of the experience of the people in the class, we always start off with the same things. We try and establish certain principles that are absolutely fundamental to the art, and which in a way are the things that we practice the art to be able to try and cultivate and take into our lives. Everything else is about that process of cultivation. Well, you could argue that. I mean, it's a massive subject, of course, Tai Chi, but bringing your attention into your body, just letting body and mind begin to settle together, become a little bit more aware of your posture, and over a period of time, we adjust our posture to something more conducive to movement, using that awareness to guide us, beginning to feel that our bodies can move us up as a whole unit. Letting our weight drop, rooting down, moving from the center of the body, this area between hips and waist, often designated as being like the hub of a wheel. When you turn the hub of a wheel, every part of the wheel moves. So a sense of collecting thoughts, rather than what is often the case for us. We have busy lives, there's a lot going on in the world around us. We can feel very dropped or scattered from one thing to another. And just beginning to develop a sense of harmonious movement, harmonious interaction between really three aspects of ourselves. One is obviously the body. This is clearly a physical art, form of exercise. Between that and our minds, our awareness, and a growing sense of our intention. These are intentional movements, intentional postures that we take. And the third element, a little bit more abstract in some ways, but the sense of movement, the flow, the energy that seems to connect body, mind, movement. And just really trying to establish that And if you can, do this at the start of the day, so that that sense of harmony, that sense of being centered, of being grounded, becomes part of our day. And the different exercises that we do, the different approaches, the different ideas and images that we use, move us towards this. So in the first instance, from a kind of physical point of view, we want to find a way of standing that involves less strain, less stiffness, and what that means is less resistance to the pull of gravity, amongst other things. So, for instance, if I just stand, I want to find a way of standing in line with gravity. If I'm leaning forwards or backwards, I'm being pulled over by gravity. And as I move, I want to be able to move and try and maintain that alignment. With that alignment, I want to get a sense my hips just dropping back a little, so my center of gravity drops. You think of the pelvis perhaps hanging from your spine. We can use different ideas and different images to help us, to help engage our attention. The lower your center of gravity, the more deeply rooted, to use the Tai Chi term, then the more stable you're going to be. And again, this helps to relieve some of the tightness, some of the stiffness, some of the holding in our movements. And that encourages the movement, the flow. A strong focus of attention in at the center of our body and from there down to our feet and the ground. A lot of our attention is, for obvious reasons, up in the upper part of our body, our hands, in our arms. We don't want to lose that awareness, but we don't want it to block out a sense of what's happening in our feet and in our legs. And all of these things aid this process of a kind of gathering of body, mind, and energy. There's many things that can come out of that, but these are foundations, and the foundations are always important. Whether this is your first time doing Tai Chi or your 101st or whatever, these are the first things that I would look to try and build at the start of the day when I begin to practice. Feel how your body's supporting itself. Your legs are obviously supporting you, and if you can keep that alignment with the pull of gravity, they're more able to do that. You want to feel that your back supports the front of your body. So try not to pull your belly in, tighten your chest, shoulders. And as you become more familiar with these qualities, and you do lose some of that tightness and stiffness, especially in the upper part of your body, growing sense of what else is there. Your skeleton is supporting you, the skeleton and surrounding area. You don't need the tightness, you don't need the stiffness. And so our awareness deepens into our body in that way. You may notice a sense of rhythm beginning to build. Yep. Sometimes isn't always obvious, so it doesn't always seem to work out, but the more you can release tightness in the body and get that sense of movement from the center, and in my experience, the more that rhythm builds. And we feel a sense of connection when we move in the hips. There's a resonance in our shoulders. When we move in our shoulders, there's a resonance in our arms. So we're laying the groundwork for the later movements, the flow. We might want to bring an image in. So a very common, almost universal image in Tai Chi is that we're moving through water. So there was just this resistance around us, or maybe in a kind of light breeze or something like that. A resistance that encourages this sense of what we would call softening or releasing joints and muscles so that we can move without straining and cultivate this inner strength that I just referred to. You may find as you stand here that your breathing deepens. Breathing is a form of movement like everything else. The old writings in Tai Chi have this lovely phrase, they urge you to seek the stillness within the movement. And the movement helps us to cultivate that stillness. And with that sense of stillness, we're able to observe our posture and our movements much more effectively. Turning your hand palm forwards and raising up a little bit, no higher than your shoulders. Notice that my elbows are lower than my hands and my shoulders, almost as though my arms are kind of hanging from the ceiling somehow. Still that feeling of your hips dropping back. And then take your hands. Now, put one foot forwards, keep the width of your step and just gently push your weight forwards and backwards. Again, people with a bit more experience, notice that springiness in your legs, remembering to give yourself a chance to settle in each leg and feeling that the transfer of your weight is like a wave going through the body and begins to move you. This is a key part in Tai Chi, that, again, referring back to what I was saying earlier, what's happening in your feet and your legs. Weight transfer, which we'll come back to this later, but it's one of the crucial aspects of movement and mobility. And again, possible nice steady rhythm beginning to build. And then change over. Okay, and then check that. You can refer back to any of those ideas at any point as we go through the exercises. So a closer look at posture. Let me come closer. So you want your feet directly below your hips, not too close together, not too wide apart, either pointing forward or, if it's more comfortable, very slightly turned out, but not a long way turned out. You want a general sense that everything is kind of orientated in one direction. Now, one of the things that can be difficult to understand in Tai Chi is this idea that it's both quite a strong exercise. It was originally a martial art, but also we use the term relaxed. Just taking a look at that for a moment, starting with your shoulders. Very gently, this is not meant to be a strong exercise. Push your shoulders up towards your ears and then slowly lower them down, focusing for the moment on the downward movement, the sensations in the big muscles of your upper back, shoulders, and chest. So when I use terms like softening, releasing, letting go, this is the sensation that I'm referring to. And they're all aspects of the Chinese term sung. And again, this is where the translation and the understanding relax comes from. So we don't necessarily have to think that as being relaxing. As you get used to this, you can also begin to feel that quality, that softer quality, as you push your shoulders up. And we want to really understand, get a feeling for this movement, because we want it to be a constant intention. We intend to move in this manner. Now, the key area, again, is the center of the body, down and down into the ground. We're going to do the same thing there. Just gently tightening across your hips, pulling your belly and lower back in, and then again, allowing that to release. What I notice when I do this in the center of my body, it affects my whole body once again. When I pull in, I can feel my back, my shoulders tightening up, I can feel my knees tightening up. When I release, all of that begins to change, and I get this strong sense of once again dropping downwards. So releasing, softening, whatever term means the most to you, is the way that we begin to root down. Our knees will bend just a little bit. They will curve to allow the weight to drop down through our legs, but we're not going at the moment for a deep stance. So Sung is, if you like, one of the kind of key starting points for us in Tai Chi. So then, taking care of your knees as you do this, as you release, just let your hips drop back. Let gravity pull your hips down, and then at a certain point, you'll find that your legs simply push you up, and then you release again and sinking down. And once again, with time and with practice, you'll find that this quality of Sung isn't just something that we experience in what we might call the yin movements, going down, dropping shoulders down, dropping hips down, but is in fact the flavor of the movement, both the expanding and the contracting. So again, this becomes an intention that we remind ourselves of. It's enhanced by this image of moving through water. Body expanding, contracting. Bringing your hands around as though you're cradling the ball. And as you expand this time, let that expansion push your elbows out. That draws your hands up. Turn them over, let your hips release and drop, shoulders release and drop, and your arms follow. So the movement starts with this releasing and pushing up into the upper body, and then releasing, sinking down, drawing the upper body into your arms down. This exercise is simply called rooting down because it's this key principle of allowing the center of gravity to drop and bringing our attention to that process. And by default, therefore, a greater sense of being grounded, literally aware of the ground, being centered, literally moving from our center. From the side, you see that my arms and hands are close to my body. Try not to stiffen up in your fingers and thumb, your elbows. Again, it's quality of Sung. And as we release that tightness in the body, tends to be initially, at least, the big mobilizing muscles of the body. So we'll find that other aspects begin to engage. Tendon and ligament, skeletal muscle, fascia, bones themselves. So again, we get a much fuller sense of our whole body and mind moving as one unit. We don't have to follow a particular breathing pattern or method, but if it suits you to do this without straining, and that's important, then as you breathe in, imagine your lungs are down in your belly, and you breathe in as you push up, breathe out as you sink down. Don't artificially slow your breath. And if your body's more comfortable breathing differently, then follow that. It's not the end of the world if the breathing is a little bit different. You may well find by not concentrating on your breathing that it naturally begins to harmonize. And we can just begin to notice that as we go through the exercises. Now, sinking down, turn your hands so your fingers point away from your body. And again, your arms being pushed away from your body, they'll swing up quite naturally. And this exercise It's called the wild goose. It carries with it this lovely image of the bird in flight. May convey certain qualities to you. If it doesn't, then don't try and sort of chase after and artificially create those qualities. The images are there to bring into to enhance movements. So they're in the service of the movement, and if they're not working, then don't worry. There are plenty of images that we use. This is the wild goose. And then when your hands drop down, cross in front of your belly, push up, elbows going out, fingers being drawn around in the smooth circle. It's parting the clouds. Imagine the sun coming out from behind the clouds on a grey day. This lovely sense of expansion, warmth that we can get in those circumstances. It's important to recognize this is not meant to be a stretch upwards. Notice my elbows are still bent, and with all of these movements, you should feel that you could have moved a little bit further, right at the end of the movement. So we cultivate this spacious quality within the body that allows for that harmonious flow of energy. One more time. Letting your hands drop all the way down. Feel how heavy your arms are. Bring your attention to one side, and as you push up, let that push your arm up, reaching up. At the top of the movement, wind around as though you're plucking a fruit off a tree. Gently pull down. Bring your attention to the middle of your body and its feeling of sinking to the ground, then to the opposite side, pushing up, wind around and down. This is called Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky. Center of the body, and then the opposite side, start all over again. So we bring our awareness, bring our intention to one part of the body, encouraging the movement there. Maybe just, those of you who have done this before, the memory of the movement, maybe the image of reaching up to pluck something off a tree. Just noticing how our bodies respond, how our energy responds to these different images and memories and ideas. Realizing that body and mind are very linked and overlap with each other rather than being sort of separate entities that we often just simply assume is the case. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky, reaching up, but not straining. Keeping the connection to the ground. Imagine you have an elastic band. You're standing on one end and you need the foot sinking down. Hold the elastic band as you stretch it up and then slowly allowing it to contract. So again, your attention to the center of the body, and then maybe the same image on the other side. Do one more of these. And then just let your hips come up a little bit, standing in this top position. So this basic posture that we refer to as the Wu Chi posture allows that movement, that energy of the pull of gravity going down through your body, something we rarely pay attention to, particularly noticeable perhaps in lower back, hips and buttocks. And also becoming aware that our body responds to that with an upward movement. Otherwise, we would just collapse. So as we stand here in this posture, we're cultivating space for this two-way movement. This is one of the most important dynamics in Tai Chi. Gravity is always with us, our bodies are always responding to it. We could see this as a source of energy. Bring your hands to the side of your body and see if you can just get the inside of your arm or wrist to touch the side of your hips. Feel that physical connection to your center. And then once again, raising your hands, lengthening through your back. So you're beneath a low ceiling, just pressing up a little bit. Come back and take a moment to make sure you make that physical connection once again. It's easy to overlook that. Lift up, push out again, so you're stretching out an elastic band and back. You may find that you begin to rush the movement. Bring your hands down, you get nearly to the end, but then think, oh, I've got to move, I've got to push out. But take that extra moment just to make that physical connection. Re-establish for yourself that sense of the stillness within the movement as you touch the side of your hips. Remember that feeling of releasing, dropping of your center of gravity. And then this time, as you push out in that center part of your body, you turn, that redirects your arms forwards and backwards a little bit, or diagonally, and back. That draws your arms into the center. Turn the other way, coming back, taking that very short moment, that split second, just to recenter, to reground yourself, and then pushing out to the sides. This is simply called pushing in 4 directions. Remember, this is the stillness within the movement. It's not moving and then being still. They're not different things. They're connected. Just like the hub of the bicycle wheel is locked in to the frame. And if it wasn't, then the movement would still die down. The more active, moving aspects of the art require the stillness and help to cultivate the stillness. Again, just recalling that feeling of releasing in your hips, sense of moving through water, that sense of space within the body. These are all intentional qualities. Again, beginning to notice how our body responds to those intentions. Moving too far. One more round of this. The movements described in various ways. I've already mentioned the moving through water, or you're in a light breeze, shall we say. Sometimes described as moving massages, or as though internally all the tissues and the organs are being very gently bathed in the movement, in the energy. Bringing your hands in, lightly touching your sides, letting your hands drop down, and then once again focusing on one side of your body. Let the arms swing out, that palm facing upwards, straight down the middle of your body, the midline of your body, till it drops to its full length, releasing in the hips and then feeling the push out again. It's called circling palms. expand in, and then this time, take your time at the top of the movement, turn, don't hurry that, and down. As the arms drop down, turn back. So between each stage of the movement, there's just this very, very short period of time where everything settles here, top, here, the end of the turn, here, so your hand drops down and finishes, and here as you turn back to the front. Then change into the other side. I sometimes think of these little moments of stillness as acting like a comma in a sentence. They don't actually break the flow of the movement, but they just structure the sentence so it doesn't exhaust us trying to speak it or to listen to it. Add in the tone. And as though your body were being massaged on the inside. One more time. So both those last two movements are in this top position with hips hanging back a little bit, but now going back and sinking down and pushing up. And this time, please be very careful with your knees and your hips, but gently push your hips back a little bit. Notice how that changes the angle of the upper body. Then let gravity pull your hips down so you come up nice and easy and gently and push up. Doesn't have to be a big move. I'm doing it quite big so that you can see what I'm doing, hopefully. It's interesting to see how by yielding, by applying that quality of sung to the pull of gravity on our hips, by releasing, actually we come nice and easily to an upright stance, rather than stiffening and straining in our backs and shoulders. This time, push your arms out, and as you go forward, let them swing over as well. It's called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Once again, recognizing how important the movements in the center part of your body are. And that area between your hips and your waist, and there down in to the ground, can become a sort of resting space for your mind. You practice in this way, we develop the neural pathways, the muscle memory that allows us access to that space. One more time, rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. As you come up this time, let your hands come and rest onto your belly. Turn, then push the hips back. So your hands slide forwards, swing your hips across, let them drop down, turn back to the front. It's called polishing the table. Movements in the center of your body, drawing your arms around in a nice smooth circle. Back, so you can see my hips doing again. I'm exaggerating the movements a little bit so that you can hopefully see what's going on. But remember, we should always feel as though we could have moved a little bit further, but there is still the environment within the body for that flow of energy. One more time. And then the hamstring. Give your legs a little shake. So effectively, rather than getting into a fight with gravity, we make friends with it. Rather than feeling that we have to pull ourselves up and strain, we can actually use gravity to help us to get to this upright position. Rather than feeling that we have to strain in our movements, we can use gravity to help with this cycle of movement, this cycle of energy. And this is a very different mindset. We could argue this is a much softer mindset. Excuse me when I get a drink. At the same time, we're developing this quality that in Tai Chi we refer to quite often as inner strength. I often use the term inner resilience, that body and energy in very subtle ways begin to strengthen, to become more resilient. And this is seen as being an essential aspect of our well-being, as well as for those interested in the martial side of Tai Chi, something that is developed into those kind of areas. Now, changing the stance. So as you stand with your feet hip width apart here, shoulders are supported, hips are supported. Turn one foot out, step straight forwards. Notice you can still see the background between my legs. And in length, it's about the same. And then once again, begin to transfer your weight. Slowly this time. And again, there are these little moments of settling. So the weight moves, we settle. The weight moves, we settle. And again, we begin to feel that push up, that sense of a rise in energy. Ideally, I think we would never lose that sense of stillness. In practice, we so often do. There are many things in the world around us and in our lives that can throw us off center. But we can remember to come back. We can remember to find again that space in mind and body that is conducive to the movement. But these are as much moving meditations as they are physical exercise. So you'll be getting about 70% of your weight into your back leg, and then when you go forwards, maybe 60%. Now what we want to try and do is to increase that so that gradually we come more into line over one leg. So when you go into your back foot now, just raise the front toes and you'll feel yourself slipping back a bit. Please be careful of your knees. You can turn the front foot out a little bit here. I find that useful. And then you push the back knee in so your heel comes up. Try not to rise up when you do this. One tip I would say would be to, at some point, just turn the camera on your computer and watch yourself doing this. It can be quite surprising how habitual it is to sort of pull up. But the raising of your toes and heels shouldn't involve your shoulders. Keep your weight sinking downwards. And then you draw what we would call the empty foot in and then replace it. Just have a moment to settle, bring the foot in, find that alignment over your supporting leg. When you step forwards, push your foot out, put your heel down, lower the ball of your foot, gently push into the ground, what we call planting. When you step back, it's going to be the ball of your foot that goes down first, then the heel, and then the plant. You know how it feels if you're, putting a seed in a pot or cutting in a pot. You put the earth in and then you gently press down. So we take a moment just to really make sure of that contact through our foot to the ground. Try that on the other side. First of all, what we would call fixed step, not raising toes, raising heels. Thinking about that moment of just settling. This is a key exercise in Tai Chi. It's very good for mobility and stability. It's very good for conditioning legs. So if you have problems, say, with ankles or knees or hips, go very gently, but you'll find that this can be a very helpful exercise. Beginning to raise your toes and your heel. If you find as you start to do this, that you're a bit kind of unsteady, what we're trying to do, once again, is release, to soften, to allow our center of gravity to drop. But that's quite a difficult thing to do, you may have noticed. We can, if you feel as though you're about to fall over, it's hard to relax. So what you could do is put your hand on a wall or a table or a chair, just for that little bit of extra support, to give yourself that space to see how it feels when you can release a little bit more. Likewise, when you're stepping in. And again, I would say to people with more experience, even if you don't feel that you need that support, try it sometimes with that. It can be quite surprising to realize that we're still holding on to tightness within the body, and that support helps us to work with that. And then step through, so go forwards or backwards, depending on where you have the room. So you're walking on thin ice, you're going to test the ice before you commit your weight. So again, taking shorter than normal steps, quite likely. I'm going to change direction. Notice that I'm not rushing. I'm moving my weight back, giving myself a moment to settle in. And then bring the feet back. And again, you could do that with your hand on the support, just for that little bit of extra time to discover that you can actually bring about that stability through releasing, not straining. If we do get into a fight with the pull of gravity, it's probably one that we're going to lose, isn't it? Now have your right foot forward, so mirror my movement. Start with your weight in the back foot, bring the upper body back into this movement now, and trying to do so without losing that sense of what's happening in our weight, in our hips, in our feet. Place your hands on your belly, push forwards and let the movement push your elbows out, separate your hands, just let them come out a little bit, no higher than shoulders and back. This is called pigeon spreads its wings. It's expanding in your belly, solar plexus in your chest, and then contracting there, feeling the subtle expansion across your back as your hands come in. So feeling the internal movements, the internal flow, the changes within your body, as well as aware of the external movements. Again, maybe as though you're moving through water. Trying to keep a perspective that encompasses your whole body, from the soles of your feet to the crown of your head to the tips of your fingers. front and back. This time, letting your hands drop down, feeling the weight of your arms again, ease forwards, and as you settle in the front foot, your arms swing through. Coming back as you settle in the back foot, they swing through, gently curving upwards. This is called fisherman castanet. It can feel like a wave. Starts in the sole of your back foot, comes up through your leg and through your back, and out through your arms. And straining your shoulders, your arms really should feel quite heavy because they are quite heavy. And then this time, as you go forwards and your arms start to swing through, turn. And once again, notice how when you turn, your arms change direction, coming back, letting your arms drop down, and then turning in the opposite direction. It's called wind blows the willows. Body contracting, expanding. Again, a nice steady fluid rhythm there. We can combine this stepping. So this time, as you go into your back foot, raising the front toes, bring your foot in. It's called dragonfly skims the water. Step out and plant the foot, turn, push your back knee in, bring the heel up. And again, you can do this maybe next to the wall or however actually helps you with this. What you may find, it's by no means necessary, is you can bring your foot in and just raise the knee, rotate your hip. Step back. Bring your foot in. Don't do this if it makes you feel uncomfortable. And take your time always. Try not to strain. Find your stability by releasing, not by stiffening in your shoulders or your back. Dragonfly skims the water. And then, again, you could discover, if you like to use the term, how we can use this quality of song. You could do that one-handed. So here, I've just got one hand on the wall. I can go forward. I've got the wall there for support. I can just think, oh, what's going on? Can I release the hips a little bit from here? Have I got the alignment in my body that allows my weight to drop through my legs? So let's try those exercises with the other foot forwards. Turn your back foot out, step forwards. And until we start to step, try and have the front toes pointing forward, or again, very slightly turned out. Hands on your belly, weight in your back foot. Pigeon spreads its wings. Expanding, contracting in the front of your body. Expanding and then contracting in the back. Feeling that movement, that flow within your body. Aware of areas that might feel a bit stiff, a bit tight or blocked. Maybe just bringing a sense of intention to those areas, the intention being to release, to let go. Or maybe An image that I like to use sometimes in those areas is that the movement acts like water in a river when it flows over a rock and just begins to wear the rock away. Pigeon spreads its wings. And then fisherman cast a net. We also begin to notice that different movements will, of course, bring about different patterns within the body. So some movements seem to work more in different parts of the body. And we can begin to learn that through that quieter attention that we cultivate. Become more aware of subtle changes. What brings about those changes? Fisherman cast a net. Noticing where, as your arms swing through and up, there's little moments of expansion in different parts of your body. And then wind blows the willows, not straining in your arms, not twisting your back, but turning your hips and your waist, keeping that strong but supple quality building in the upper part of your body without having to tighten up. Raise toes and stepping in. Dragonfly skims the water. Finding your alignment still over one leg. Finding your roots through one leg. Maybe just raising the leg. This time, step through, so you can either go forwards or backwards. Remember, planting the foot. Call in whatever images or ideas are most useful to you, help you to maintain your roots and your alignment, the flow of the movement. I'm going to change direction before I bump into the camera. One more time. You have room. And bring the paper. So again, mind, body, movement, or energy working together. In Chinese medicine, they have a saying that the energy follows the mind and the body follows the energy. I think in Tai Chi, it's probably more blending of the two. It's not really a hierarchy. But we find that the different movements draw our attention into different parts of the body. And as we get used to that, then we find that that awareness of what's happening in different parts of the body, those intentions, begin to drive the movement. So we start to experience the movements from inside out. So we're going to go back to some of the earlier exercises we did, just stringing together in a simple sequence. Take your time with this, and it's not going to be the end of the world if you get it in the wrong order, but coming back to the parallel stance, sinking down. So starting with rooting down, remember, pushing the ball up from the ground and then sinking down. Turn your hands out and go into the wild goose. Take your time, changing over, let your hands drop down, parting the clouds. And then from here, curling your hands under, going back to the beginning. This feeling changes between one movement and another, between one part of the movement and another. There's obviously a lot of similarities and crossover. They work in slightly different ways within the body. They make use of different images. Taking your time, remember those commas in the sentence. Change over and feel rushed. Moving through water as though the air around you was thicker than normal. Again, you may find your breathing follows this progressive expansion. We feel the expansion in the belly, and then starting the same way, feeling the expansion going up into the chest, solar plexus, and then finally to the upper part of the chest and the lungs themselves. Maybe just have an intention with this sequence that when you reach the final stage each time, or maybe once or twice, see how it feels to breathe in. But again, shouldn't force the breathing. And remember, not everybody's comfortable focusing on their breath. And there's plenty of other things to observe and to bring your intention to these movements. One more round. Letting your arms drop down all the way, and then our final exercise, pushing up, arms coming out once again, but this time coming around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest, drawing your hands in, and then let your hips sink, shoulders drop, and again pressing the ball down. This is called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. The mountain being this lovely image that encompasses so many of these qualities: stillness, also movement, spaciousness and strength. The tiger is just everyday life, really. So once again, the emphasis on this idea of coming back, just for a moment, re-experiencing this stillness, this groundedness, before we move out again. And this is perhaps something to take with you out of the class into your day. One more time. And stand. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope that was good for you. So if you have any questions, please get in touch. But apart from that, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.